Okay, let's talk about lead form strategy. So basically, the idea here is to just kind of talk a little bit about how the lead form process, the questions you ask a lead, how that affects the quality of leads you get, the number of leads you get, the cost it takes on average to get a lead, and that sort of thing. So first, let's just back up. What is a lead? A lead is, and for this purposes, is typically going to be they're coming from your website. They're coming typically from an ad like Facebook ads, Google ads, Instagram ads, so on and so forth, right? So you put up an offer, they give you their information so that you can get in contact with them. That's how they become a lead. Getting someone's email address is really not a lead. That's more of like an email newsletter sign up or a email sign up. Also, pro tip: if you're trying to generate leads and you just get an email address, email is by far, and this is 2024 when I'm recording this, probably the worst way to try to contact someone. It just doesn't work very well. E-commerce, things like that, sure. Email marketing over time can work, but when you say, "Hey, I have this offer," and you say, "I'm going to reach out and see if I can sell you this offer," email is kind of useless. So, with that being said, let's talk about the forms. So, a couple of big questions that we get are how many questions should I ask? What should you ask? Should I ask any questions at all? Um, should I make the phone number optional? Okay, so let's tackle a couple of these. How many questions should you ask? I always say you should ask the minimum number of questions that you need to start to qualify that person. So if you're a real estate agent, you might just ask, "Hey, are you looking to buy or sell?" That's really all you really don't need to know that, but it does provide you some context so that when you follow up with them, you can basically start that process by saying, "Hey, I see you're looking to sell your house. Hey, it looks like you're getting ready, you're thinking about buying a house." Again, it makes it easier to transition over from cold lead to having a conversation. So that's really it. If you've ever heard the term MVP, minimum viable product, that's the mentality. We want the minimum number of questions, because the longer the process takes, the more hoops that they have to jump through. What's going to end up happening is you're going to lose people through the process. The best example is think about when you pulled you're scrolling through Instagram or you're looking something up, and your kid comes up and says, "Hey, can I have a glass of milk?" And you're like, "Yep, sure, 1 second." And they're like, "I want a glass of milk." And you're like, "Okay, okay." I kind of remember that Adam Sandler, I think it's Big Daddy, where he's like, I want this. And he's like, "Okay." And just a minute. And he's like, "I want this." And he's like, "Okay." Love Adam Sandler. Anyway, so the whole point is then you go get him a glass of milk. You come back, and wherever you were is gone. You pull up Instagram, it's reloaded, gone, right? So you lost them, and not because they didn't want it. It was just because they got interrupted. So the faster you can do this, the better chance you have of getting them to fill out the form. Now, here's another thing, and a lot of people don't know this about Facebook ads, but when you set up a Facebook form, and you basically say, "Hey, I just want their name, email, phone. I want it to just show up. All they have to do is just click the button, the very basic stuff." What happens is you can literally like drop your phone and submit it. It's pretty much that easy. I almost just did it right then. So what ends up happening is on the back end, you get these leads that are like, "I didn't opt in for this. I didn't want this. I don't know what you're talking about," and you just kind of start pulling your hair out. So that's a couple of issues there. Now, the last thing, and this is the other big thing I get, is should I make phone number optional? I don't want to be too salesy. Do you need to follow up with them by phone? Do you want to sell them something? Will someone call them on the phone if you get their phone number? If the answer is yes, then require it. Because ultimately, if they will not give you their phone number, they will not answer you when you call. So, well, first of all, if you don't have their number, you can't call them. But the whole point is, like, if you need their number to call them, right? You need their number to text them, which honestly is kind of the secret right now. Again, in 2024, text message works best. I actually think probably in the coming years that's going to be much more difficult for us to do. I think there's going to be all kinds of spam texts and things like that. They're going to get filtered out. So it's gonna get really difficult, to communicate with people. But as of right now, this seems to be the best tactic. So what do you do when your lead cost is really high? One of the things you can do with lead forms is you can simplify that. So let's go look at your lead form. Is it clearly communicated? I see a lot of Facebook forms, for example, that have all this information. Well, so okay, think about it this way: they just read the ad and they said, "Cool, I want this." They hit the button and then they have to read all this stuff again. Again, it's just time. It's just time. It's costing time. So what we want to do is we want to speed that up. So we want to say, hey, were you looking for this? Yep. Click next. Boom. There's your information. Does that look right? Yep. Answer this one or two questions, or maybe it's just a checkbox or something like that, right? Like, hey, are you looking to buy a house or sell a house? Click the button. Boom. You just want a couple things. Now, again, if lead cost is high, you want to start taking questions away if you're asking them. You want to speed up the process. If on the flip side of that, if you're getting a lot of leads that are kind of junk, first of all, it could be the ad. That's probably the number one thing. You need to go look at the ad and say, am I attracting the right people? But if you're getting some of the right people and some of the wrong people, form is a good place to look. It's one of the elements that you can look at. I would look at if you're having trouble connecting, if the leads are like, I don't know what you're talking about, look at your form and think about adding one simple question that would be like a yes or a no, or I'm a this or I'm a that. You don't want them to write a lot of information. You don't want to make it hard, right? You don't want the question to be really long. You certainly don't want it to be confusing. Now, um, in an effort not to make this a 15-minute video, I just want to end with this last thing. And my favorite question to ask, and I've asked questions on forums, hundreds to thousands of forums, and the question that works best for really any industry I've ever done this in is to say, tell us more a little about blank. Tell us a little more about your spray foam insulation needs. Tell us a little bit more about your fitness goals. Tell us a little bit more about your weight loss journey, whatever it is, right? Tell us a little bit more about your home improvement needs. And basically, what it does is you will get some people that will say kitchen remodeling, quote unquote kitchen remodeling. Then you get some people who say, hey, we just bought this house and moved to the area. We're actually going to be moving into the house in about a month or two. And, we wanted to redo the kitchen. We're totally okay. Not, if you guys could work us in and blah, 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 right? So they give you this whole story. Which lead is better? The one that says kitchen remodel, or the one that says has the whole paragraph that they write you? So what it does is it helps you to get a feel for, oh wow, this person is either in some pain or they're really looking for a solution. So that's the biggest thing. I would say my favorite thing to do is to say name, email, phone, tell us more about whatever it is. And that's generally my baseline for form testing, and starting things off. That's sort of my baseline. And then again, if lead cost is really high, I'll probably pull that one off. If lead quality is low, I'll maybe add another question. Hey, are you a buyer or a seller? Tell me more about, right? So that's a couple questions. So really and realistically, the speed thing is an issue, but also there's sort of this level of consciousness that we're dealing with. Again, especially with social media, not as much with Google, but with social media, we're interrupting them. We're interrupting their what I would call scroll time, which kind of looks like this. Right? I mean, it's just this, it's relaxing in a way to just sit and scroll on your phone. So that's part of what we're dealing with is the inertia of they're not even super conscious when they opt into some of this stuff, right? So that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the people that are kind of above that level of consciousness, and go from there. So what other lead form questions do you have? I'm happy to answer them. Drop them in the comments, and yeah, I'll throw some responses in there. Thanks for watching. If you're still with me, have a good one.